How is it going, everybody? My name is DeMarco, and we're stuck in a definitive content drought for Starfield information. We're sitting on and waiting for this Starfield developer showcase or Starfield conference to happen, but we don't have any date yet. We have no time. Nothing has been revealed to us, just that it's coming eventually. So with that, speculation and rumors start to grow a little bit as impatience spreads amongst Starfield fans. So today, in order to help ease that content drought, I want to provide a discussion for all of you, and that's addressing some of the concerns that I've seen about Starfield, both currently as well as some historic things that I've seen around. And I've also reached out to some of you guys on Twitter to ask for your thoughts, and we'll be addressing some of those in this video as well. So without further ado, here's my take on some of the concerns about Starfield. Starting with number one are the graphics. The graphics do not in any way look like a 2023 AAA game, and I'm inclined to agree. Objectively speaking, the game does not look as good as some modern releases, such as Hogwarts Legacy, which just came out. Hell, it doesn't look better than some games that released in 2015, like Arkham Knight, which is just still to this day visually stunning. But it has been proven time and time and time again that visuals do not make a good game. What makes a good game is great gameplay, and Bethesda has mastered that craft with their immersive worlds and with all the features and all the depth that a lot of their games have, from the amount of factions that you can join, the dungeons that you can explore, the quest lines you can take part of, the main story that's taking place, the world that it takes place in, the physics, the first and third person camera, all these coming together to make an incredible Bethesda experience. And it's the reason why people are still playing Skyrim today. People are still making new mods for Skyrim today. It's absolutely staggering. And Skyrim, even when it released, was about in the same position that Starfield is, visually speaking, back then. Ultimately, and Todd Howard himself has said this, he's willing to sacrifice some of that visual fidelity to get the modularity and the immersiveness that their worlds contain, and I'm perfectly content to take that perspective as well, and I think most Bethesda players are. Could it look better? Yes. Should we continue to push Bethesda to try to improve their graphics and their visuals in their games? Absolutely. Let's keep trying to get them to improve in that direction. But is it going to be the end-all be-all that makes or breaks the game? Absolutely not. Number two is the overuse or possible over-reliance on procedural generation within Starfield. And folks such as Hans Vaughn took to Twitter to say that their concern is Starfield will end up as wide as an ocean, 1,000 planets, etc., but be as shallow as a paddling pool with not much to do. And I'm really happy to speak on this point because leading up to the launch of Starfield, I was pretty adamantly against the idea of having these massively procedurally generated planets, something that I thought would act to the detriment of the game. And I've actually done a pretty big 180 on this concept, this topic, and I'm happy to explain why, and maybe I could convince some of you if you're in the same boat. This comes in tandem with some of Todd Howard's own comments, where he's mentioned there's more handcrafted content here than any of their past games, where he stated directly to fans, if you want to do the handcrafted stuff, stick to the handcrafted content. What I've come to realize is it's still the same exploration that Bethesda fans know and love from past titles, just on a much larger scale. So instead of something that most players are familiar with, where you're wandering around in Skyrim and you see a dungeon there, go off and explore it. Once you leave, you see a tower waiting to be plundered and you run off in that direction. You find all these points of interest just directly around you. Now you're talking about scaling much more up, where you're traveling between systems and you see a few points of interest to land at, go do those locations, take off your ship, and then go off and try to find another. Not necessarily worse exploration, not better, just simply different and very appropriate for Starfield. 1,000% there's going to be a lot of empty space in the space game. Go figure. But ultimately what I think it comes down to is this helps to build this epic sci-fi backdrop where you can go land on those planets, where you can go explore all of those locations. You have the option to allow for players to feel this increased level of immersiveness, which is a very important factor for any Bethesda game and why so many people love them as much as they do. Realistically, will most players after the first couple hours be continuing to land anywhere on the planet because they can, and it's so riveting to see these masses of space? Probably not. Maybe here and there, but mostly I would say no. That's completely fine, but at least you have the option to. There's no artificial barrier wagging its finger at you saying, no, can't do that. And I appreciate that. I think many of you will come to as well. Mr. Robo Hobo and Sean Campbell both agreed on Twitter that 30 frames per second on Series X was a concern, and I totally understand why, especially when most games offer either a performance mode or a graphics mode. Here's hoping that Starfield will do the same, but Todd Howard has been pretty open, stating he doesn't mind 30 frames a second games, and also that he's willing to sacrifice some of the game's performance if it means that they could have more going on and they could do more with the game itself. It did, at least to me, sound like he's trying to prepare fans for what's coming, meaning that locked frame rate, but for console players, I do hope that at least you have the option of picking how you experience it. This next one is something that I don't hear very often, but I remember seeing it somewhere, wish I could recall where, but it's that there's not enough factions in Starfield. Now, my first response to this is, we almost certainly don't know all of the factions in Starfield. There's 3 major players: the United Colonies, the Freestar Collective, and the Crimson Fleet. Lore-wise, these are the big groups within the settled systems where Starfield takes place. Probably a lot more groups that we'll be able to go off and join throughout our adventures. If there's no space bounty hunter guild so I can go around the settled systems like the Mandalorian, it's going to be a huge missed opportunity, and guarantee you that some of the first mods are going to be Mandalorian based, which is pretty cool, but I digress. Let's just assume that there were only 3 factions in the game. I would much prefer to have 3 very well thought out, very deep, intriguing quest lines involving these factions than a bunch that are very minimally fleshed out, right? Especially when we've heard comments that you could influence the path that some of these factions take, that you could get some of their members killed and still new leadership, since you can't become the leader of every faction yourself like past Bethesda games. If there were 2 distinctly different storylines for every faction of 3 in the game, that's technically 6 different options that you could choose between all of them. Offers a lot of replayability. But again, there's still a lot of groups we haven't heard a lot about, like the cultists of House Faroon. They've come up, what, once? Sure, maybe they exist as just an enemy that you fight in the game, but doesn't mean that there's not more groups like that you can actually join. DB Cooper, Jenkins, and King Fanman all took to Twitter to state that their concern was, when the heck is Starfield actually coming out? Now, for folks like Cooper who are trying to take PTO, I'm in that same boat, completely understand. Could be a little bit stressful, you're trying to plan to actually enjoy the game. But I'll say on this subject what I've said in the past, which is I still fully believe that Starfield is coming out the first half of 2023 until Bethesda says otherwise, and we just have to simply wait for this Bethesda Starfield event to take place. I know it's unannounced. I know that we all want to know. We're all in that same boat. Bethesda's hard at work on the game. Asking for it, questioning it, and trying to hurry along will not make the game get developed any faster or any better. So we have to simply wait and see. Now, in addition to that, if the game is hypothetically set to release in June, which is entirely possible, and Bethesda wants to keep about a 3-month window between the announcement and the release date, it's possible we won't hear anything until March or April. That's completely reasonable. So stay tuned. Let's keep an open eye out. Might even hear something by the end of the month about when this event is going to take place. We'll see. But I don't think it's been delayed, and I don't think it'll be shadow dropped. I've heard that after Hi-Fi Rush's release. It doesn't work for every game release just because it worked really well for Hi-Fi Rush. This next one is a bit more broad in stating, I don't like that Bethesda or that Starfield is doing X, and X can be whatever it might mean to you. An example, this is not my personal opinion, but an example, some might say, I don't like that Bethesda dumbed down the fuel mechanic. There's no hardcore fuel system in Starfield. First thing I need to say is your opinion's completely valid. It's simply your preferences. What you like and what you dislike in certain games is entirely up to you. You can't be wrong about that. But number 2 is that Bethesda games have reached such a wide audience. From Morrowind to Fallout 76, every title in between, and even before that, there's so many Bethesda fans that it's impossible for them to account for every single like and dislike of everybody. And that's where the beauty of mods comes in. Mods, unlike Bethesda, which has financial and budgetary constraints, mod makers don't have any of the sort, and so they can create, and you can download the ones that you like to custom tailor the experience to exactly what you're looking for. That's part of the beauty of Bethesda games. But additionally, one last thing I wanted to note is that whatever concerns you might be having about the game, generally speaking, Bethesda has probably addressed in some form or another. Going back to the fuel example, Bethesda actively tested both versions of the game and found that it was better without the fuel system, and they liked it more that way. They're not just making these decisions on a whim because it seems like the right thing. They're testing them out, they're getting feedback, they're running it through QA, and they're trying to provide the best experience for players possible. And if you don't like it, try to find a mod for it. But ultimately, the fact that we know Bethesda is talking about these things, that's a very good sign to me. I really am appreciative of that, and I hope they tell more about those types of decisions that they've made. Nobody watching this far thought we'd get through an entire concerns about a Bethesda game video without mentioning bugs, right? Well, here we are. Bugs are a natural concern everybody has with every Bethesda game, and it's not just Bethesda games, it's most open world games, not even just only recent open world games going back for many, many years. Bugs have been a big problem. Even like The Witcher 3 was notorious at launch, and unfortunately probably should be walking into it expecting about the same thing here. Now, in an ideal situation, this delay that Starfield has experienced is specifically in order to work on polishing the game. That would be great if it's had this many months. We even know that Bethesda set up automated systems to run through the first intro missions of the game in order to test it out while leaving some manual work to be done elsewhere, which is pretty good. However, unfortunately, still gonna have problems. The question is just how many and how game-breaking are they? One important note that needs to be addressed is the comment and misconception that modders fix Bethesda's games for them, which I'm sure many are going to state. It's not really true. In fact, I took the time to reach out to the lead on the Skyrim unofficial patch, who stated not only do they feel like they're not fixing the game for Bethesda, they're doing it out of passion because they want to, but also they're fixing a lot of things that Bethesda simply does not have the time or resources to. They're working on much bigger game-breaking problems, and these modders can step in and fix some of the smaller things because, as I mentioned before, Bethesda has financial and time restrictions to get some of these products out. Modders have the luxury of time to do this on their own, and it's out of passion for the games. Thank the mod makers, but thank Bethesda too, because it's not as simple, and your QA testers, it's not as simple as switching a line of code to fix every single problem that this particular bug is causing. It's usually a lot more involved than that. Fixing one thing typically breaks two other things. It's very common. So thank the QA testers at Bethesda for doing the best they can. Thank the mod makers for spending the time they do. Everybody's involved to give us the best experience, and we're grateful for it. Do you have concerns that I didn't address here? Let me know down in the comments section below. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and discuss it with you over there. So thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.